Our next speaker is Nicholas Milone from Disney's Animal Kingdom. He is talking on changes to Polynesian tree snail, Partula nodosa, husbandry. Nick has been an animal keeper at Disney's Animal Kingdom for 15 years. He has been a member of the ectotherm team for over 3 years. He's been the point keeper for Partula nodosa for over 2 years and has helped drive a research project around their husbandry. While here in Arizona, he is most looking forward to see a Gila monster. Welcome, Nick.
Hi guys, I'm Nick. I'm an ectotherm keeper on the small mammal and ectotherm team at Disney's Animal Kingdom. And today we're going to talk about our changes to our Partula snail husbandry. A little background on Partula snail. They are found on the island of Tahiti. And in the late 1960s, they introduced the giant African land snail to Tahiti for a food source. They kind of escaped their enclosures and started destroying crops and vegetation in Tahiti. So the response to the giant African land snails was to release the rosy wolf snail. And instead of eating the giant African land snail, they of course ate the native snails. So they were brought into captivity. There was less than 50 individuals. And by the early 1990s, they were considered extinct in the wild. So this was our original setup in these containers. So this is a medium critter keeper with a layer of saran wrap on top that had 20 3mm holes poked into it. It was held in place on the container by the rubber band with the lid on top. Our original setup had a piece of paper towel on the bottom that was moistened by squirting water from a water bottle. But that wasn't exactly accurate. Every keeper did it a little differently. We had food that was delivered to us in a powder form by our nutrition center. We would mix it up, apply it to the short ends of the containers. And that also led to some inconsistency due to people making the food itself a different consistency. This was our first change. We actually moved the food off of the size of the container and put it on an acrylic plate that we could easily change in and out of the critter keepers. We actually had a conversation with our nutrition team. They were using these Cambro food pans with a Cambro grip lid to hold meat in freezers that prevented freezer burn. As we were going through these changes, we decided, hey, I think we can eliminate some of our plastic use by switching to these particular containers. By our calculations, we're going to save about 1.6 million square inches of plastic wrap from entering the landfill per year. But they were so good at holding humidity, we had to find a way to vent these containers. So we originally tested on the lid itself with 10 holes. Those holes were 5/16 of an inch in diameter. This was very specific because it was small enough that it didn't allow the smallest newborn to fit outside those holes. And as we were testing these new containers without any snails in them, we realized that 10 holes still held in too much moisture. So we added 10 additional holes on the lid and retested the data. It still held in too much moisture. We ended up having to do that 2 more times, so we have a total of 40 holes on our lids. But as we were pretty happy with the data, but we weren't completely satisfied. So then we had to add additional holes along the midline of the container. We added 8 total, 2 on each side. and we thought we were pretty good. So we introduced our snails into those containers with our acrylic plates. One thing that we found very interesting is that in these containers, the snails actually continued to use the lid, whereas in the critter keeper, they didn't. We also added protocols, so we had a very set amount of water that we added to each container. We ended up about 5 milliliters of water per container. And we made a standard food recipe so that we can make sure that all the data that we were getting back and all the water we were putting in there could be as accurate as possible. So this is some examples of our devices. That green device on the left is a Hobo Pendant MX temperature and light data logger. And the silver button on the right is an I button, HygroCon temperature and humidity data logger. So those were really important. We pull that data every 2 weeks, and my colleague Allie analyzes it for us, and I don't talk about data in here, but she will talk about some of the data that helped us make these changes here shortly. So now that we talked about our containers, this is our setup in our invertebrate building. This room is somewhere between 70 and 75 degrees. This is actually our second version of our setup. Originally, we only had 2 groups. The group on the left would have had 15 containers. The group on the right would have had 14 containers. And they had a 2-day cleaning cycle. So the first day, they would have been transferred from their current container into a clean container and given fresh food. The second day, we would have left them alone and cleaned the opposite group. But since we added the acrylic plate, we changed to 3 groups. The group on the left has 9 containers, and the 2 groups on the right have 10 containers. And so this allowed us to actually go to a 3-day cleaning schedule. So on any given day, 1 group is being transferred from their current container into a new container, having a new clean acrylic plate with food placed in them. A second group would just be opened, having the old acrylic plate pulled out, and having a new acrylic plate placed, into their container, and the third group would have nothing done to them. So while we were pretty happy with the results of the Cambro test, we decided to test it in 1 group. So we moved 1 group of 10 groups of snails into the Cambros. And because of the holes in the Cambros themselves, we were afraid that other animals and invertebrates were going to get into those containers. So we needed a way to ensure that those things wouldn't happen. So they were placed inside the butterfly nets. As we continued on, we were seeing okay results. But the challenge was there was a pretty big lag time between when we made a change and we started to see results. So we decided to push forward and kind of move all 3 groups into those critter keepers. But the challenge was we were seeing decline in population. So we decided to use a Kestrel heat stress wind meter to determine flow, and we determined that there was no flow inside those butterfly nets. So we added these axial Dayton standard square 4 and 11/16 axial fans to our butterfly nets. They were originally 20 inches away, like you can see on the right fans. And we retested with the wind meter. We saw the wind actually and airflow improved, but it kind of only went through the first and second row of those containers, kind of leaving the third containers with, they were too high in humidity. So on the left group, you can see that we've moved the fan from the side to on top of the butterfly net, which allows us to better control where that the wind is going to get to every group. And so we've actually seen some pretty big results from that. So we are currently in the process of moving all 3 of our racks, all the 2 racks into 3 racks so that we can get all our butterfly nets on the same level, because we were concerned that the top net was actually blocking some of the light level that was going to the bottom net, because there is some research that suggests that light levels affect reproductive rates. So our next goal is to put them on 3 racks that are on the same level, which allows us to move all the fans on top of the butterfly nets, which will allow us to get better flow in those nets and hopefully replicate what is happening inside that left group. I just want to give a special thank you to Allie Richardson, Jameson Cage, and the entire small mammal and ectotherm team for allowing me to present this and helping out with this project.
Questions?
Hi. Okay. So we have a similar setup at Woodland Park Zoo to your original setup.
Mm-hmm.
And did you say that the Partula snails don't utilize the lid in the old setup?
They don't use the saran wrap. No, they didn't for us.
Interesting. Ours definitely do. And I'm really curious as to why that difference is. So let's talk more if you would like to.
Okay.
I was just curious, I know you said you were talking about moving the enclosure to the same level because of lighting. Did you ever consider using like a artificial lighting to simulate or kind of have better control over that?
We do have just kind of one light in the room. That room is a little difficult because it has a big window that leads into a main room, so it's kind of a little challenging for light levels. But we do have a couple other meters in that room that are kind of monitoring light to make sure that kind of what is happening in those containers may be accurately to what's happening in that room.
All right, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yes, there's 5 institutions that are working with these snails. Have you compared your results and successes on a regular basis with these other institutions?
So we are, always look at the populations of other places, but we are looking for other places to send meters to kind of compare results to.
We have a question from online from Kathleen. How many snails per cell, and do you have an upper limit?
So right now, in our old containers, the upper limit was probably between 100 and 120. And our each container now probably has between 50 and 100, and we don't currently have an idea of what that upper limit of that container may be.
I just had a question about the diet. The Partulas, they're predatory snails, is that right?
No, they eat decaying leaf litter. They would in Tahiti eat decaying leaf litter, so and algae, and so I think our diet is made up of some of those same things.
I can speak to the diet. I make it myself at Woodland Park Zoo. It's a lot of nettle leaf powder and oat powder. There's something called Teclid stress powder and calcium. So I have another question for you that I forgot to ask about the lids.
Yeah.
Do they utilize the Canberra lids?
Yeah, they do.
That's so interesting
Yeah.
that they, okay. We got to talk more.
Okay.
And the little petri dish that you have in the Cambros, that has water?
No, it doesn't have anything in it. So that was a way we could identify potential snails that may be not doing well. So,
Oh, okay, yeah.
as we clean them, we put them in there to identify snails that we need to double check on.
Awesome. Love it. Do you do that in the new setup now too? Oh, you said that.
Yeah,
sorry.
so we did it in both.
Both. Okay, you just picked the one. Gotcha. Okay, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Still more time? Anyone have any questions? All right, thank you.
Cool, thank you.